Welcome to How We Heard It, the podcast about music, pop culture, movies, and more, with your hosts, Wayne Bledsoe and Chuck Campbell.
And we're back with How We Heard It. My name's Wayne Bledsoe. This is
Chuck Campbell.
And this is our second podcast. Today's subject is artists we think are overrated.
Overrated, right. And let me say that overrated doesn't mean we don't like them.
That's right.
It doesn't mean that they're bad. It certainly doesn't mean we hate them or anything like that. But just in the big picture, we think they get more credit than they deserve.
Exactly.
All right.
Yeah, because I chose three artists, and I think one of them was very talented in one way, but
I've got three different acts, and they're all very talented. So, and again, this has nothing to do with whether I think they're any good. It's just
right.
I think they get more credit than they deserve.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I think too. There's this one that I think is very talented. The others I think are talented and good, but there's one, the biggest one I think people probably have problems with. But you start.
Same here. Oh, I'm starting.
You start.
Okay, I'm going to start.
I think I started last time.
All right.
Your turn.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse she came out in the 2000s. She was unknown anywhere except Britain, her native Britain, until 2006 when she released the album Back to Black, which had the song Rehab, which was a huge breakout. And at the time, there's always this thirst for women who are just really raw and kick it out and unfiltered. And it goes back to Janis Joplin and Patti Smith and maybe Tina Turner and Courtney Love and Polly Jean Harvey, all these women. And she very much fit that prototype.
Right.
And I think everybody was ready for it. They wanted a new one for the new century because we had crossed into a new century. But she really just, she died at the age of 27, a few years after she got started. Her career never blossomed into this, multiple album, multiple hit kind of thing. She had that one huge splash with Rehab. She won 5 Grammys in America, and she was just known all over the world, and everybody liked the video and everything. But I feel like she's more of an incomplete than a fail. She died of a combination of drugs and alcohol and possibly bulimia. But for example, I was in Hollywood about a decade ago, and they had a big poster of, I don't even remember if it was a radio station or maybe even a record store like Amoeba Records. Right. And it was Justin Timberlake and Rihanna and Kanye West and Amy Winehouse. Mm-hmm. And I thought, does she really, from the one song, does she really, rank up there with people who've been having hits for years? So anyway.
Well, I'm very mixed on this, Chuck.
Okay.
Because, I kind of had the feeling that Amy Winehouse was kind of a one-trick pony until I saw the documentary on her.
Okay.
And then I realized how much was behind all that. And I totally agree that she was her potential was never reached because she was a much better singer than you heard, and I thought she was a great singer.
Her background was like soul and jazz, and
jazz, very, especially
right.
And that is the only movie that has ever made me sob.
Really,
I absolutely at the end of that movie I broke down.
What hit you about it?
Because here was this wonderful, this sweet young woman. It starts when she's about 14. And where they show, that she was trying to be a singer, and she had all these hopes and dreams, and she had all this talent, and she was really a great singer. And then everybody she encountered just about betrayed her. I mean, from her father on out.
Right.
And you fall in love with this girl because she is so good and so talented and so sweet.
Right.
And then you watch the business and the people who take advantage of her just absolutely just destroy her.
Right.
And that, by the end of it, and there's a montage in that movie where they show, they show what's going on with her, the drug addiction and how she's been just crushed by the people around her. And then there's a montage of late night jokes about her.
Right.
And I remembered
And
laughing.
she was the butt of a lot of jokes.
Yeah, and I remembered laughing at those jokes.
Right.
And it tore me up.
I mean, her life was tragic, you know.
Right.
And like I said, when we were talking about overrated, I don't mean she wasn't talented.
Right.
I thought she was fiercely talented, and I thought that, you know, I think if she had been around longer and made more recordings, then she would have been really influential. But I think people were so moved by one hit and by just how that hit, you know, so hard, because we hadn't had that kind of a star in a while.
Right.
And people just wanted to grab onto it and put her on this elevated level that she just hadn't worked her way to yet.
Well, and I think the fact that her life was so tragic, and then people recognized that, it elevated her up again. I think that she had the potential to be one of the greatest singers of our generation.
Agreed.
And I agree that I think overrated is not a term I would use, but
I had trouble with that. It's like,
Yeah.
what does overrated mean? You know,
Yeah.
there's one that's just totally personal on here, and it's just like someone I don't connect to at all, but I
Yeah.
understand why they were popular and why they were influential.
Well, I think to some extent she was loved for the wrong reasons, and I think that what she did in the short period of time she was here, probably that is overrated, but the potential that she had is not. So, I mean, I can see your point.
Right.
She's not somebody I would choose.
Right.
But
Well, who would you choose? Why don't you give us?
well,
your
I'm
first
gonna
one?
save the biggest one for last.
Okay, I'll do the same.
I'm gonna take the easiest one, right? Well, it's not this one may be the biggest one at this point. The easiest one for me is Kanye West.
Okay.
I think Kanye West was a great producer, and I saw him live and reviewed his show. Gosh, I can't remember which one of the albums it was, but he had live artists. I mean, he had basically a big string section, and he was really, really good. Mm-hmm. But he wasn't great. He wasn't earth-shaking and phenomenal.
Okay.
And I think that as a producer, he helped a lot of people sound good. He brought a lot of, this is a guy who has an ear for, beats and can make stuff that sounds good. But I don't think he's one of the greats. I don't think he's on a plane with a Beyonce or somebody like that I think really is loaded with talent. Mm-hmm. I think it's all, mostly it's more style over substance. He told everybody what a genius is, what he was, and they believed him. It's kind of like Donald Trump, Oh, yes, I'm rich and I'm smart, and it's like, neither. But okay. Kanye West, I think, is talented. I just don't think he's nearly as talented as people believe he is.
Okay.
Come on, I'm waiting.
Okay.
Come on.
Well, I mean, I would say, if we're evaluating like iconic rappers, I would say Kendrick Lamar is more talented than Kanye West is. Kanye West he stirs it up like nobody else, or we should call him Ye, actually. By the way, that's
whatever he is this week.
Right,
we'll call him that.
But I think that a lot of his downfall has just been all of the extraneous stuff, and getting away from his music and just being a provocateur, and that really, I don't know. I think that he probably had more potential, and he got so caught up in the game that he forgot what he was doing as an artist.
Well,
and
I do think he's mentally ill too.
He could well be, and I know that for a long time people were blaming his mother's death as like really affecting him, but she's been gone a long time now, and I don't think that's it. I think it's just
to that argument's credit, I mean, that is really kind of when he seemed to kind of go off the rails.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
But it's like, one of my favorite artists is Lou Reed. And I think, well, he's not one of the people I picked to be overrated. Mm-hmm. People just said everything he did was great. And he released some pretty lousy albums. He released some brilliant albums, but he also released a few that were just junk.
Right.
And I think people say, oh, yeah, this is wonderful no matter what it is because of who they are.
Right.
I just saw John Paul Jones. We were just talking about this earlier at Big Ears. Mm-hmm. And he did an experimental set with a cellist whose name I can't remember right off the bat. But I thought it was just junk. It was like they're just noodling, and because of their great musicians and famous names, everybody says it's terrific.
Every hero has flaws, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even my favorite bands. I mean, your favorite bands too. I mean, I've had to give. I've had to give bad reviews to Kinks albums, and the Kinks are,
Okay,
how much I love the Kinks.
Yes, I know how you feel about that. Yes. Okay.
All right, you're next.
I'm
I want
next.
another one.
All right, this one's a little bit different, but I'm going to go at U2. And here's the thing. You have to hear me out, okay?
You and I are
extremely
gonna agree on
talented.
this.
Oh, are we? Okay, I thought you were going to come at me for this.
No.
All right. Well, okay, so music in the 1980s. Bruce Springsteen was the king of rock, and that was the face of rock and the voice of rock, especially in the earlier parts of the decade. And it was such a chaotic and fractured year. You had new wave, you had goth, you had disco had boiled into some kind of electronic kind of dance music. You had big names. You had Madonna and Prince and Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and Whitney Houston. So you had all these big names, and it was just all over the map. And then that's also when you had hip hop and rap really starting to permeate into all the genres and to really turn R&B around and make it, a multi-dimensional kind of genre. So, but rock, as the decade went on, kind of veered away from Bruce Springsteen, or apart from Bruce Springsteen. It was the hair bands.
Right.
Okay, and you had the heavy metal, and you had the Bon Jovis and the Guns N' Roses, and you had the Rat and the Poison and the that sounds like something. And you had Whitesnake, which, it's things you don't want in your garden kind of bands. But anyway, and that was just frivolous kind of comedic type of music and cartoonish. So U2 emerges from Ireland in the mid-'80s, and very great reputation for live music. They were part of Live Aid. Just those earnest vocals from Bono and The Edge and the searing guitars and these big sweeping soundscapes and songs like Pride in the Name of Love and With or Without You and I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. And it was like tailor-made for them to take over and bring a new era of rock in, okay? And that looked like where it was going. And in the mid-late 80s, that was the band that everyone was talking about, because rock was kind of sliding with the effect of these other genres kind of taking away from them. But then you pivot into the 90s, okay? U2 kind of leads into it, and they're still doing well, but then you had grunge. And grunge was like a dirty, not a U2 type band either. Right. But you had Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and bands like that. So that was kind of going away from U2. You had Riot Girls. You had festivals were kind of becoming a new scene for music and rock music and everything. Then you had hip-hop was growing even faster. It was like this runaway train, and it was like taking over like all the genres. You had you still had boy bands and girl bands and on all of this other stuff. And U2, they were kind of a victim of their own, because it was, I think, around 92. They did, what was it? Oh, shoot, I got it here somewhere.
Rattling Home?
They did Zooropa and
Zooropa,
Pop.
yeah.
They did these two albums that were really kind of pivots away from rock. So they were sort of, the creators of their own demise, because they were doing more electronic kind of pop and even dance type music. And this was sort of the last big hurrah for rock music, honestly, because rock still continues on, and it will always go on, but that just giant share that they had of the market was lost around then, and once grunge was dying out. Because how many new bands do you hear about these days? It's like very rare that you hear many things about rock bands.
That's true. So
what I'm saying is that U2, I don't think they were overrated at the time. They were going to be like the savior of rock, but then just by circumstance and by the other genres and where everyone else was going, and then what they did to themselves by pivoting away from their core sound, I think they kind of didn't reach their potential. And as a result, they're not as influential now, just because there's not as much of a rock presence now in the big upper echelons. I know every neighborhood has a bunch of kids in the garage playing a rock band. Okay, so it still exists, but it doesn't have. You remember what it was like in the 70s. You'd like slip in a pop singer here and there, but it was just rock everywhere.
Well, I will say that it is coming back. I think I hear more young kids, forming bands and playing rock and roll than I did for a long time. And I have to be careful about U2 because my girlfriend has a Joshua Tree tattoo on her shoulder.
Does she? Yeah. I did not know this.
Yeah.
Actually, she called me and told me told me to bring this up and see if you would defend her.
Well, no, I'm going to tell you the funny story. I saw U2 open for the Jay Giles Band at the University of Tennessee Music Hall.
Okay.
And U2 were on MTV at the time. They had Gloria out. I think it was this October. Their second album was out, and I was really looking forward to seeing them. And then Bono gets up and he does his Bono thing, and he's crawling on these giant speakers and stuff. And it's like, Jesus Christ, I am so tired of these guys already. These guys are going nowhere.
Right. I remember. I kind of felt that way too for a long time because I thought I don't know where this is going to fit in, and it's like it didn't fit in. It just bullied its way into everything, and then they did get the respect.
Well, they did.
I quit making jokes about them because when I was doing reviews, I'd say I still haven't figured out what they're looking for, and that kind of stuff. But then I accepted and appreciated them, and by that time, everything had changed, and they kind of they didn't get left behind. Here's what brought it up to me full circle is that I heard at the gym they play like pipe in radio, like satellite radio, and I heard this song and I was hearing it periodically. It sounded like this generic male band doing a cover of Blondie's "Call Me." I thought, that's really a terrible, weird version of "Call Me." And I looked it up, and it was U2. It was this song they released last fall, Atomic City. And it was like, oh, wow. They've kind of like... anyway, I just thought it was interesting that now they sound like the Ersatz Blondie. So.
Well, I have to say, I think the Joshua Tree is a great album. And a lot of their fans don't like Rattle and Hum, but I liked Rattle and Hum.
Right. Rattle and Hum, that's kind of the beginning of the end,
It is.
The beginning of the change, I should
say.
That's
generally a lot of times that's where I like a band. It's like
right.
my favorite album of all time is the White Album.
Okay.
And that's the Beatles falling apart.
Right.
And, my favorite Superdrag album is Last Call for Vitriol, and that's when that band's falling apart.
Right.
So I tend to pick up on something about that.
Okay.
But I totally agree. I think U2 they were seen as the be-all, end-all of everything at the time that they were out and getting big, and I thought they were okay, and that's as much as I'd give them. And of course, people are going to be throwing rocks at us because maybe
I know.
Yeah.
Well, Wayne. So make that note that Wayne's the one who really doesn't like them. I actually like them. I think they missed some potential there, but I think it's a great band, and I hope you all like them and appreciate and take something from it.
I still think the Jay Giles Band is better. Sorry.
Okay.
They were better that night.
I don't think that's going to help you with the crowd.
No, it's not. But there will be some people who agree. Jay Giles Band were great.
Yeah, I remember some great Jay Giles Band.
All right. Well, my next one, Chuck, is, and you probably won't be surprised at this because I think you've probably heard me rail against them before, is Guns N' Roses.
Okay.
Because I think, everybody still reveres them, and I just thought, I thought every element of that band was great except for Axl Rose, and he got on my last damn nerve every time he opened his mouth.
Okay.
I hate him as a singer.
Right. Okay.
And
he's not a singer so much as just like a cartoon.
Screecher.
Yeah. He's like performative,
Yeah, he is.
It's not like a vocal so much.
Yeah.
And there's some of their songs that he really just ruined them.
Yeah.
But I got to say, that voice on Welcome to the Jungle is perfect for that song. I
know people love that song.
I love, Slash, of course, is
Slash
perfect
is great
on the guitars. But that's the one time when I thought Axl's voice was just perfect for a song because he was like what's the term? Like a narrator for the end times, for the apocalypse. And so he's just kind of screaming, and it made sense in the context of that song.
It makes sense in the context of that.
But normally, I don't like looking at him or listening to him. So.
I got a good story for you.
Okay.
The band Whitechapel's from here in Knoxville.
Right.
I'm good friends with Ben Savage, who's the founding guitar player. And he was telling me about some festival they were at, and they were backstage, and they had a groupie. This is a death metal band, and they've got a groupie. That's that's a big deal. So Slash comes over and starts talking to him, And, the groupies listening and everything. And they're like, man, Slash is over here talking to us. And they were so excited. And then the groupie leaves with him. It's like they only came over to steal the groupie.
They were just a prop to get Slash what he wanted.
Exactly.
That's
so,
funny.
Slash, I hope you're happy.
Yes. I'm sure he's fine. So he's doing great.
But
okay.
that's for I know there are people who love Guns N' Roses, but I just have always thought they're way overrated, and the weak link is their singer.
Okay. So how would you rate them? I mentioned them a second ago with the hair bands and everything. Wouldn't you still consider them better than
They
most
were a step
of those?
up. Yeah, but
maybe
they were
not Bon Jovi, but
well,
how did you feel about any of those bands?
tired. I got tired of them really fast. There was Mr. Bungle, which was like more experimental and fun. They were still a hair band, I think.
Okay.
There weren't many that I liked. I do think they were a step up from, but Atlantic Records at the time that the hair band thing was going on, they would send out 4 albums by new hair bands every week. You and I both got that stuff.
Right, yeah.
And they were terrible.
I know, so many times I thought, is this the Runaways? And it was like, oh, wait, these I mean, they really, amped up the looks and everything. But, I got tired of them. And I got tired of, they were just dumb, you know. They were just, and I appreciated it when it was funny. David Lee Roth, even as a soloist, is like, okay, he's just a big goof, but he was fine, fine. I mean, just a gigolo or something like that.
It was just theatrical stuff. It was fun.
Yeah, and I appreciated that, but just every time there was a new one that sounded like all the others. Yeah. I mean, that one subgenre, I guess, really more than just about any I can think of was just sound-alike bands, just across the board.
And then, they'd have all the really loud, guitar screamy songs, and then they'd have their power ballad.
Then the power ballad, yes.
Yes. Here's our panty dropper.
The cliche power ballad, yes. With the if AI was writing songs back then, they would have written all the power ballads for metal bands.
But then grunge came. I mean, that was the
grunge
best,
was a definite step up.
That was the best thing about grunge is it killed so much of that stuff.
Yeah,
and there were so many bad ones. I mean, there were probably. I'm sure there were some I liked all right. I did not like Motley Crue. I always thought they were a joke.
I always thought Bon Jovi was like a little step over the others, but I don't know
okay.
if they deserve that.
I mean, it was.
John Bon Jovi seemed like a fully fleshed human.
Yeah, and I didn't automatically turn him off when he came on the radio.
Right.
And most of the others I did.
Right. Yeah.
All right. It's your turn now.
Is it my turn?
It's your turn. We're going through these like gangbusters.
Wow, okay. Well, this one is I actually had nightmares about it and thought about changing it because I thought, I don't really want to do this. I don't know what John's going to think of me. I don't know what you're going to think of me. So
this is John Baker, by the way.
Yes,
he's our
John
engineer
Baker,
and producer
yes.
today. He's great.
He is great, and he's been putting us up with us nicely and everything. And I don't know if he'll continue to do this. But one thing I wanted to talk about for this is, you're just a few years older than me, but you had an older sister who was like 2 years older than you.
She was 4.5 years old.
4.5 years older. Okay. Well, this is really relevant here, okay?
Right.
So, because you had a great music relationship with your sister,
right.
And she fostered your interest in music.
Totally.
And you were learning new things and finding out the context of bands and really, like, I think maybe prematurely even, like, learning so much about music when most people your age probably weren't. Yeah, and you were hanging out with older kids too, right?
Totally,
okay.
and her boyfriends would bring stuff in, and she'd have parties, and they'd leave their albums and listen to all their albums.
Okay,
but my sister was like the hippest 14-year-old on the planet. I don't know how she got so cool. In fact, she was introducing me to stuff when I was like 6 and she was 10.
Okay, well, and I had 2 older sisters, and they were nothing like your sister. Nothing. One was 6 years older. She was in her own world. She had her own friends. We just passed each other in the hall, and that was kind of it. And then the other one's 8 years older, and love her to death, but she was like married and living in Hawaii before I was even a teenager. Right. So I didn't have that influence, okay? And my friends didn't care about old music and everything. So when I was a kid, I wasn't. I would hear songs on the radio, but I didn't know who they were. I didn't care about the lyrics. I didn't care about the context. Nothing like that.
We were total opposites.
We were total opposite. And even the way we came into writing about music, it was, you had a good pitch for a good, like in-depth kind of music because you'd been training for it all your life. I had some piano lessons when I was a kid, and they asked me to write a column only because I was the youngest person in the newsroom.
Right.
And because I knew who the new bands were. I knew who the new, acts were, and I was aware of them. But, it was like terrifying for me because I don't know how to, go to their influences and everything. The whole reason I'm saying this is I've got David Bowie on my list of overrated.
What?
Yes, I do have David Bowie on my list of overrated. All right, and that's because... Well, hear me out.
Okay.
So the first time I heard David Bowie and understood who he was and what he was doing, it was the Let's Dance album. And I knew he was supposed to be some kind of icon and everything, but I wasn't really impressed. I liked the melody of China Girl. Let's Dance, it's like, that wasn't a dance song, It was like it never got started. And I didn't care. And I will say that as years went by, I discovered I had heard Fame at some point. Right. I didn't know if it was a man or a woman. It was just a vague memory of maybe hearing on the radio or TV. And then I discovered Heroes by hearing another band do it, and then found it. And I liked that a lot. I thought that was a great song.
I can't imagine you wouldn't like his German recorded era.
Yeah, well, I liked Heroes.
Right.
So... And let me say also, I'm going to defend David Bowie and my whole thing after I say he's overrated, and everything I'm going to say is defending him. But there's so many. He's got a checklist. I wrote it down here of things about him that I really admire. He was a cultural provocateur. He helped refine the concept of a concept album. Whether you like the concept or not, which I'm not sure I did, but I like concept albums. He didn't spin out conventional formulaic love songs or anything like that. He was very unconventional about that. He was a pioneer of art rock.
Yep.
He challenged notions of gender and sexuality. So he had like this whole cultural thing, fashion icon. So he was like a really important time at a time that I didn't listen to the music and I didn't know him and I didn't care about him. And I wasn't the kind of person, I think because of your background with your sister, you've always been more interested in the past of music.
Right.
And I've always been just in the moment. It's like, what's popular right now?
But see, with David Bowie, it was like, I was there when it was happening. I was watching. When
Right.
I was on the phone back in the days, when you just hang on the phone and talk with your friends and watch TV and talk about what you were watching.
Right.
We were watching the Midnight Special when the Diamond Dogs album came out, and he did the floor show, what they called. And, of course, they're playing all this great music, and then all of a sudden Klaus Nomi and somebody like rips the thing he's wearing. He's wearing like this big dress, and they rip it open, and he's wearing like a corset with spiders on it and fishnet stockings and stuff. And we're like, what the hell did we just see?
Well, how did you process that then?
Was like, at first it was shocking. It was a little bit scary.
Right.
But it's like, this music is so damn good, I don't care.
Right.
And it was like, I loved the fact that he was doing something that was just like freaking everybody out, including me.
Right.
But I'd already had the Space Oddity album because I bought that when it came out, and that was 72, so it would have been 12.
Right.
And I'd bought, Man Who Sold the World, which was reissued when I got it. But I already thought he was cool, but then it was just like, what the hell is this?
Well,
and then it's like, to me, it's like Prince or like Elton John to some extent is like, for 10 years, he was totally ahead of the curve on everybody. And everybody was like, every album he put out, people were catching up to him.
Mm-hmm. And then I come along and I hear Let's Dance.
And that's when he's right about to go on a slide.
Maybe the worst point,
That's not the worst point. The next album is probably the worst.
Yeah, he never caught my attention. I saw he and Mick Jagger did Dancing in the Streets, which was dreadful. It's like, I kept thinking,
you picked up on all the
guy?
greats.
I know, but I just kept thinking, how is this guy such a big deal? But I think that... like Midnight Special, I remember one thing about Midnight Special in my whole life, and that was when they played a new ABBA video. So that was,
of course.
And I'd never seen a video before, and it was Take a Chance on Me, and there was that split screen Brady Bunch with all of them singing.
I actually do like that song.
Yeah, and it was different, and but as far as bands playing, and I didn't care what the lyrics were, I didn't care who the people were, I didn't care about their albums, I didn't care about what they were trying to do, and I didn't even really know who David Bowie was until Let's Dance. So,
wow.
So with that saying, again, I think he was terrific, and Elton John, definitely he influenced Elton John. He influenced
Everybody for a while.
Prince, for sure. Lady Gaga is like the David Bowie of today, and more or less. But when I think about it, I don't like all of Lady Gaga's songs either.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I like a few of her songs. I think she's done a good job, but she's doing movies and she's doing artistic things and she's doing the art pop. And what it is for me, let's see. I'm trying to.
You had to take notes on this.
I'm trying to keep from being murdered by David Bowie fans.
Maybe even in this room.
Maybe in this room. Yeah. So, but okay, it's the theater. And I do like some theatrical people, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
But with him, it was just anytime I've gone back to try to absorb it, again, I don't have that much interest because it was before my time, and
right.
I'm just not wired like that. But the theater, I don't feel any warmth from him. I don't feel the emotion from him that I feel like I should.
Interesting.
I feel like he's a character,
yeah,
and he's doing an amazing show, but I don't connect to him. And that's not necessarily his fault because obviously
right.
millions, billions of people do.
It's funny because, I connect to the Ziggy Stardust album to me is like one of the all-time, that's one of the all-time greats. And I may even like the ones he recorded in Berlin after that. Heroes, Low, Lodger are like, to me, they're like a pinnacle. Mm-hmm. And they are meant kind of to be cold. But I feel it, Okay. I have an emotional response to that music, and right. I think to some extent, and there's 3 years between us, which
right.
is huge when you're teenagers,
right? And again, the perspectives we were coming in
right.
at it too, it put an even bigger gap.
But I felt like he was kind of what Lady Gaga did with her generation of fans is like if you felt a little bit like an outsider. He was like your guy. It's like my best friend was gay, and it was like, this is somebody that's like saying, kind of be who you want to be, even if it's creation. Well,
tell me something then. Like, so he was bisexual, right, or was he just? Gay?
He was bi.
I don't even know. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you had Elton John and you had Freddie Mercury, and was it pretty much known about people then, or?
Well, it was a big deal when Elton John came out, and of course Elton John got married, and
right.
It was like, really?
Right.
And Freddie Mercury, it's like I used to date a woman whose brother's favorite band was Queen, and he didn't believe that Freddie Mercury was gay, and it's
right.
like we all like.
I think there was a lot of denial about that because Queen was an amazing band. They're not going to ever be on my overrated list, so I'm not going to irritate those people, but. But I just wondered, what it was like then and how people could, and I've seen biographies of Freddie Mercury, right. and that was tragic because he was so terrified, and he hated his overbite, and he just a lot right. of his life was fear and pain and worry and all of that, and
of course, I had friends who were definitely like not comfortable coming out, but. I think you had all these people. You had the New York Dolls, who I found scary, and I think all those guys were straight, but they're all dressing in women's clothes. And then you had
that was almost a cover for the others, and for Bowie if he wanted it, or for Mercury or whoever. It was like everybody was dressing that way, so it wasn't like gay to be.
Androgyny was in.
Androgyny was in, right?
Yeah, and it was, and that was the thing is like it kind of skewed everything, and I think it probably helped just culturally. People do accept who they were and come out just because you had these iconic figures who were out there. We didn't know for sure whether they
right.
were or not. When Elton John made some real cryptic comment back in like around the time he was on the Cher show, and he was. Like becoming a big deal after Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and Caribou, and those albums came out. And he still, at that time, didn't just come out.
Right.
Which is kind of disappointing, really.
Right.
But I don't think anybody could, but I do think that they gave people the courage to be who they were a little more.
Well, there were rumors about almost all of them, too. It was like, so it's like, I don't know, I could count off pretty much anyone from the hard bands.
We had Lou Reed. I mean, Lou Reed, who was, we all thought was completely gay, and then, he's like, turns out he's bi, and I mean, he lived with a transsexual woman for a long time.
Right.
And wrote songs about her and everything like that. But then, later on he gets with Laurie Anderson.
Right.
So
great taste as far as
great taste
go.
I mean, yeah.
Well, it was just interesting because I think for me, seeing Boy George, it was like, oh, huh. Like, that one was like, okay, he's just going to be gay, and it's just what he is, and the guessing game, just like he was beyond that, and just like let's just although I think even in the beginning, people were like, I know women loved Boy George, and it was like, okay.
Oh, listen, I mean when. I was going to review an Adam Lambert show when he came to Knoxville, and I was talking to the people outside, and I was talking to this mother and her teenage daughter, and the teenage daughter was telling me what a crush she has on Adam Lambert, and I'm like, well, maybe you're
barking at the wrong tree.
Yeah, maybe this is not really the person you want to have a crush on. And her mother says, oh, I had a crush on George Michael.
Yeah, that was, people were really, really, really in denial on that. And I think it doesn't matter. I mean, when you're crushing on, because you're never going to be with them anyway.
Well, listen, it
doesn't matter what they care about. And
I could crush on Joan Jett. I mean, she's sexy as all get out. And, she'd have zero interest in me.
Yeah, yeah.
But
she would.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've talked to her before. We've both talked to her before.
Yeah.
But she's super sweet, just as nice as she could be.
Yeah.
But she is such a badass.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was one of the Runaways was straight, right? I think just one.
Oh, I don't know.
There was a whole lot of controversy about that they had all been through and everything. All of the women from there. So
I don't know. Kim Foley was creepy, but
yeah,
it was macking on all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, and that was kind of the problem.
Yeah.
But we're getting way far away from this.
Okay.
But yeah, David Bowie, overrated.
Our friendship is over.
Good.
All right.
Finally.
Here's my last one.
Okay.
Michael Jackson.
Oh, boy.
Michael Jackson, as in the Jackson 5, he's talented as all get out. I mean, my gosh, he's just amazing. And then Off the Wall album is great.
Yeah.
Thriller is great.
Yeah.
But I personally feel like a lot of that's Quincy Jones. And I think he's not a very good songwriter, or was not a very good songwriter.
Okay.
I think that, again, it's more style over substance. I mean, once he did the moonwalk, we were all thought it was great.
Didn't he do that in Neyland Stadium?
Oh, he came to Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, I think he was moonwalking then.
Oh, yeah. That was
based on old archive stories.
Yeah,
I think.
that was when he was big.
Yeah,
that was the Jacksons. But that's what he was. He was the big draw, but he toured with the family, the brothers. But I just think that I just watched that documentary on Netflix about making "We Are the World," and I think that song sucks. I always have.
Yeah.
It's just a terrible song.
Yeah.
And, of course, they're going on about how at the last minute he comes out with these lyrics and he comes out with a song. It's like,
right.
It sucks. I mean, Lionel, all my respect to Lionel Richie for pulling that together.
Right.
But, anybody else in that room could have written a better song.
Yeah, it was pretty lame.
It was lame. It's a great cause.
Right.
Amazing thing that they brought all those people together.
That was after... the UK.
Oh yeah, it was after Bob Geldof was. He was the inspiration for it with live. Yeah,
and their song "Do They Know It's Christmas?"
Yeah, that came out, and that was the big deal. And
that's a good song.
Yeah, that's a good song.
So maybe they thought they could do that with bigger stars, and it didn't. No, it was not a good song.
There's a great part of that documentary where. Stevie Wonder's wanting them to all sing in Swahili, and it's like they're going. They don't speak Swahili in Ethiopia. and Waylon Jennings goes, well, I know any old boy who can sing Swahili. I got to go.
I'll have to watch that. I didn't see that.
It's a good documentary, but I hate that song. I've always thought it was a terrible song.
So what do you think then? He was overrated as a songwriter, or?
I think he was overrated as an artist in general. It was a moment. And again, it was like, he calls himself the king of pop. Nobody called him the king of pop. He called himself the king of pop, and everybody was supposed to call him that.
Right.
And, he wasn't. I mean, it's because he was a reaction to Elvis being the king of rock and roll, which Elvis is another one that, I won't say Elvis is overrated because the influence he had, everything came together in one person with Elvis. Mm-hmm. You had a white guy who was singing black music, which is what Sam Phillips wanted. And he was a great interpreter. He wasn't a songwriter, even though they put his name on some songs.
Right. Well, you heard Dolly Parton's story.
No, I hadn't heard this.
Yeah, that he wanted to do I Will Always Love You.
Oh, I Will Love You.
Yeah, he was going to do I Will Always Love You, but he wanted to have, or I guess, I don't know, probably Elvis. Anyway.
He always wanted to cut, I know that.
Right. So he wanted his name on the songwriting credits, and Dolly said no.
Good for Dolly.
So she didn't let Elvis do it, and she knew that would have been a huge, huge breakthrough, but she just couldn't let Elvis take credit away from her.
Yeah, good for her. But so many people did.
Yeah.
And it's silly.
Well, okay.
But that's
Elvis was going to be the one I was going to throw out there if I chickened out on David Bowie. So I knew I had to take a big one down.
I understand people thinking Elvis is overrated, and in some ways, I think he probably is.
Well, for me, it was like his performance, the sneer and the way he sang was really affected, and it's like maybe that went over then. But
it was revolutionary. I mean, that's the thing with...
But in a good way?
Yeah, in a good way, because it, everything... You look at music at the time that he came out. I mean...
I can't. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. But white music at the time was, pop standards.
Right.
And that sort of thing. And, kids were starting to listen to the old the R&B stations that were out there.
Right, right.
All those folks that were coming out. And he made it's not like he made it acceptable because they protested him all over the place. But he brought that into the white majority. Mm-hmm. He's not the originator of it by any means.
But he wasn't trying to. I mean, he was trying to give credit.
Yeah, he gave credit where credit was due, and
not everyone did that.
Right, but he made everybody looked at him.
Right.
He was where it came together into one thing, and some of his '60s stuff is negligible. Some of his '70s stuff is really negligible.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah, I can't remember. I mean, I like. Suspicious Minds, I guess.
Yeah, well, when he kind of came back in '68, he was great for about 3 years.
I heard it at some point in my life as a child.
Yeah.
But, well, Michael Jackson, that's an interesting one. And part of it, we've talked about, the woke thing, and I don't know that we want to get into it and all that.
I don't get into anything.
Well, and just as a point of reference, I was a huge Lizzo fan. Mm-hmm. Love her voice. She plays the flute. Love her songs, the energy of her songs. I love her body positivity and how she's been, spreading so much of that. And I promoted her to a lot of millennials at work before they had even heard of her, know. And then all these accusations came out about her being like a fat shamer herself to her own dancers, and it just shattered everything in a way, because it's like, oh my God, if she did that, then she's just a fake, and all this stuff I loved about her she didn't deserve because it wasn't real. But at the same time, how do you know it was real, and do you give her the benefit of the doubt or not? And I just go back and forth, and sometimes I'll hear a song and I'll just let it play, and I mean I really do love her, but then I just think of if these allegations are true, I can't listen to her,
Well, this is a topic for a whole nother show sometime, because it's so hard to, once you find out certain things about certain artists, can you still listen to their music or watch their movies or whatever? Right,
and that is something we should revisit, because it's not easy, and I think that's the thing with Michael Jackson. I mean, all the allegations about him, and people some people just believe none of them are true, that he was just weird, and he just liked being around children because he was still a child himself. And I know.
I always thought
and it's like, gosh, there's an awful lot out there, though. And it's like, do you just give him the benefit of the doubt over and over, and despite everything you hear? And if it was true, it doesn't seem like he's really getting dinged for that the way other people do.
I know. Well, I watched that Finding Neverland documentary.
Yeah.
And
how can you not believe some of that,
Those guys are totally believable.
Yeah.
And, I always said back joking, years ago, anybody who tells you that his best friend's a 10-year-old and a monkey, he's not normal.
Right. But and it's okay not to be normal, but it's like, what's your relationship with this 10-year-old?
And back then, and they were talking about him having the sleepover with kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, he's not a kid. And I don't care how childlike you are in your head.
Right.
Yeah, and it turned out, I think, I believe the kids and the guys in the Neverland show. It's that it just complicates it. I hate thinking that anyone didn't do something and that they're being taken down the drain because of that. And I hate just seeing so much evidence and saying no, it was fine. No, it's fine. But it is interesting to me that I do believe a lot of people believe he was inappropriate, and that's okay. They're still big fans of his, whereas, Lizzo can make fun of her dancer being overweight and she's done, Or again, like I mentioned the last time, Ariana Grande can lick a donut and she might, her whole career could go down the drain over that. Yeah.
So it's complicated, but just looking at Michael Jackson as an artist, regardless of allegations and whatnot, I didn't really love his music myself, but I just saw it just transformed so many people. And it was just, and he was a great dancer. I think he really had some very distinct vocals. You might hear that now in, I don't know, several. He was influential. The songs, I agree, they didn't stay strong, and I actually became more of a fan of his sister anyway.
Yeah,
she's just kind of a dominatrix. I don't know if that's enough to take her down. Just try to take her down, see how far that gets you. But anyway, it's I've always just torn because I remember Michael Jackson. I remember the popularity. I remember how transformative he was for people, and he did have this positive energy. And then you just think, well, what else was going on, and how do I react to that? And what's appropriate.
Tons of people that I've interviewed through the years that talk about, what inspired them in music was Michael Jackson.
Right.
Hearing Thriller, the Thriller album, and the videos and everything.
Yeah. The Weeknd. I thought he was the most obvious, descendant of Michael Jackson, and he's one of the biggest stars now. So.
Yeah. No, and he did influence a lot of people, but I just think that part of it. He had a great voice. He was a great singer.
Yeah.
And a couple of those albums are terrific. Off the. I like Off the Wall better than Thriller. I think it's just more fun.
Yeah, really. That was the right up to the edge there before Thriller, but yeah.
Yeah, but it's I just think that he gets too much credit artistically. Culturally, you can't deny what a huge influence he was.
He was the artist of the 80s, really. I named, Madonna and Prince and Bruce Springsteen and everything. I don't know how anyone eclipsed Michael Jackson at the time. Yeah, you can look back now.
But the big thing when he died, I went out to lunch with a friend of mine who's a musician, and actually Michael Jackson may have cribbed one of his melodies. But I was saying, I'm sorry I'm sorry he died, but I just don't think that he deserves everything he's got. And I said, you compare him to Stevie Wonder, you compare him to Prince, and either one of them was way, way, way better songwriter. And
Prince was everything.
Prince was everything, and there's one that doesn't get even as much as people love and as much credit as he gets.
You can't give Prince too much credit.
Exactly.
You can't.
Exactly. He's one of my favorite guitar players of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard Kiss came on the radio the other day. And it was the guitar in that. I guess that was Wendy and Lisa. I don't even know because, he had this band
Yeah.
for videos, but I think he may have been doing a lot of what the band people were doing in the videos, although Wendy and Lisa are good. But just Prince can't be, he's one of the few I don't think can be overrated.
Yeah, and you listen to the guitar on "I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man." It's just like it's one of the best guitar solos of all time. All played, done that super high stuff, and it's just like phenomenal.
And I don't even like guitars that much.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do an entire show on
we'll
guitars.
We'll do a thing on guitars later.
Guitars versus keyboards.
I'll line all my guitars.
And I'll just say, these guitars look like David Bowie to me. It's like I don't think. Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, recommendations
coming up.
Well,
I can do.
You give your.
This is how we saw it. So the name of our podcast, of course, is How We Heard It. But we like to do little recommendations thing. How we saw it. I'm going to say, the Oscar buzz is over and everything, but The Zone of Interest, which was nominated for Best Film, I don't think a lot of people saw it. It was very austere, but so powerful. It was a British filmed movie near the Auschwitz concentration camp in Poland. And they used a German cast, and it was recounting from the real live commandant from Germany who was over Auschwitz. Right. His family lived next door to this concentration camp, and there was just a wall between them, a tall wall, but still. And they had Jewish indentured servants, I suppose. But it was like if you think how could people live back in those days, and this is just one take on that, and it's it's scarier than any horror film you're ever going to see. Wow. Because they were just living well. They had a lush home and helpers and a pool and a greenhouse, and as evil as and the thing is, you can see them living their lives, their daily lives, and having parties, and you can hear what's happening at the concentration camp, and you can hear people pleading for their lives, and you can hear gunfire, and you can see smoke coming out of the crematoriums, and you can hear trains, bringing in more concentration camp detainees or whatever. But the way they played it out, it's just like the wife is actually the biggest villain in the thing, because the commandant has some moments of like he's like kind of trying to grasp what he's doing in this terrible role and having people executed and everything. Right. But his wife is just worried about having the perfect home, and she could care less, and she's like scavenging through all the nice clothes that they take from the incampees or whatever they're called, and she has no qualms about it, and she just ignores everything. All that she cares about is how she's benefiting from this. So when people wonder how that happened, and you see this, you can see it, and you can see how it would make some people crazy, but you can also see how some people would just be like, but what's in it for me? Right. And she got nothing but reward from it. Wow. And she was crazy. And she was played by Sandra Huller, who was the same woman from Anatomy of a Fall. So she was nominated for Best Actress, and she had a really big year. But anyway, I recommend it. It's not an uplifting film by any means. The use of sound and the use of film angles and everything, they don't do like the usual close-ups. A lot of it is just like, stationary cameras, like 20, 30 feet away from the action, and you see people playing and happy, and you can hear yelling and gunshots in the background, and it's just real chilling. So
it's I haven't seen that or Zone of Interest yet, but since I was going to go with something else, but I'll go, since we're doing this, I'll go with, since we're talking about things that were nominated for Best Picture, Poor Things, which is great and crazy, but it's like all Yorgos Lanthimos movies in that it is so wonderfully warped and funny. And and again, I mean, it's funny because on Facebook I saw people just going crazy over how much they hated it.
Right.
And people saying it's not a feminist movie, and it's not this, and it's exploitive, and all this other stuff. And it's like, well, they didn't get to the end of it. I think if you get to the end of it, you'll think that it is very empowering for women. Mm-hmm. Of course, old white guy talking about women. But
I tell you, I liked it. I love the surrealism. I love the movie Lobster that you did before. Mm-hmm. And I was uncomfortable just in the fact that the woman, Emma Stone, a beautiful young woman, her character was thrilled about having sex with all these old creepy guys, and everybody, the directors and the writers, everybody were these old creepy guys, and it's kind of like, oh, couldn't a woman have directed this or something? But otherwise, I thought it was great. I thought she was great. It was funny. It was satire. So I got over that, but I could see where people would pause and think, I don't know.
Well, I can agree with that part, but I think the point of, so much of the point of that was watching how they reacted to her as she became intelligent as opposed to having a baby's brain.
Right.
And, when she stopped being a little kid, it was like, oh, they're like threatened by her.
Right. Yeah, when she was a little kid having sex with him, that was...
Well, that's creepy, too.
That was really creepy, yeah. But then she gets older and smarter.
But that was the...
Still enjoys sex, but at least it's...
That was the commentary. But the thing about, her enjoying sex was, she's enjoying what's coming in for her.
Right.
That was one of the things I liked about it. But what I was about to say is, if you like that, then you should go back and watch The Lobster, which I think is even funnier.
I agree.
And I don't know that it's a better movie because Emma Stone was such an incredible actress in Poor Things, but to me it's a more satisfying movie. And and it has a lot to say about relationships and how society expects you to either be, a couple or if
Joaquin Phoenix, is that who?
No, it was
who was that?
Not what's his name?
Just flew out of my head too.
It's not Clive Owen because I always get him confused. It's it'll come to you in a minute.
Okay.
He's in all of Yorgos Lanthimos'
Keep
movies.
talking as I casually look at my phone.
But it has so much to say about what society expects of you as far as being in relationships or not being in relationships. And it's toxic both ways in what people expect you to be. And it is so dark and yet so funny. And if you don't like really cruel, dark humor, Colin Farrell.
I'm sorry, it just came to me. Yeah. Colin Farrell.
It's an easy one to get it confused with Clive Owen in names. But I just think it has so much to say and it's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I told you this. I took my mom to see it at Downtown West in Knoxville. And she laughed harder than anybody through the whole movie. And I was like, because, I wasn't sure how she would take it. I thought it might be weird for her, but she loved every bit of it.
Well, I reviewed it for the paper. And,
okay.
And my daughter went with me, and we both loved it. But what's so funny is there was two guys that wrote me emails, after I reviewed it, because I gave it like 4.5 stars. But I wrote the review saying, if you don't like this kind of movie, you're not going to like this.
Yeah.
And they were madder than hell at my review. And I said, did you read the review or did you just look at the stars?
Right.
And they just looked at the stars.
How many times have we been victimized by that?
I know. And it's like, if you read the review, you can tell this movie is not for you.
I was going to throw out a music thing real fast just because I had just mentioned her, Polly Jean Harvey, when I was talking about Rough Women.
Oh, yeah.
Please look her up. If you've never heard her, her band's name is actually PJ Harvey, but she's Polly Jean Harvey. Right. And her songs from the 90s, she was I guess she's still around, but she was intense and in just a way that, you remember her well, too, I know. But I mean, if she were in a dark alley with Courtney Love, she would. Courtney Love would run screaming, Yeah. But she was as much as she can erupt like a volcano or whatever. She's scariest when she's just simmering and intense.
All right.
So her '90s albums, I would go back and check those out. Great stuff if you like the raw woman rocker thing.
Okay, well we'll do the opposite of what we did last time, where I recommended somebody really old and you recommended somebody new.
Okay.
I'm going to recommend, there's a young woman named Erin Coburn who's out of Cincinnati, and she is a total badass.
Okay.
So she hasn't captured her badassness on record quite yet. But, if you see her in concert, she is just a great guitar player. She's becoming a really good singer-songwriter. She came on my late night show when she was 16 years old, and she was like, man, she's got it going on.
What's her name again?
Erin Coburn, Coburn. And Erin is Erin.
Okay.
And she's great. She ought to be
out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, and she ought to be on stages all over the place because she is really good.
All right. That sounds good.
All right.
You want to sign us out of here?
We'll be back hopefully next week.
Right. If nobody from the David Bowie fan club finds me.
Yeah, or
We're hidden back here in the woods. I think we're safe as long as I don't leave. Okay.
We got to go sometime.
That sounds good.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
You've been listening to How We Heard It with Chuck Campbell and Wayne Bledsoe, a podcast about music, art, culture, movies, whatever they want to talk about. How We Heard It was recorded in Knoxville, Tennessee at the Arbor Studio by John Baker. If you believe you've been abducted by aliens during the listening to this podcast, we take no responsibility for that. How We Heard It is a Tear Owl production, and if you'd like to reach out to Chuck or Wayne, send an email to howweheardit@gmail.com. Come on back next week and we'll have another show for you.